I asked a physicist, what are those tiny fundamental particles made of? He quickly responded, energy. I assumed that he was referring to Einstein's famous equation E equals mc squared, which shows that mass and energy are interchangeable. And while this is undoubtedly true, it doesn't really explain the nature of a particle. When describing energy that we understand, we always clarify it with a descriptor such as kinetic energy, potential energy, mechanical energy, chemical energy, nuclear energy, geothermal energy, solar energy, etc. Without a descriptor, the word energy is just a less embarrassing alternative for the phrase, I have no clue. Normally, in the world of science, one starts with clues or observations and develops a theory. Experiments are designed to prove that the theory is correct. Then results are evaluated, new clues are introduced, and the process begins again. Scientists have had remarkable success using this scientific method. But when it comes to fundamentals, proving theories is difficult, perhaps even impossible, because there is no way to directly observe any of the fundamentals. They are too small, invisible, and mysterious. Scientists have no way to know how many parts there are to the fundamental puzzle and how they fit together. One of the key components of the scientific method is direct observation. You have to be able to see what you are experimenting with. You design an experiment to affect something in a predictable way, then you need to be able to observe that something to see whether or not the experiment produced the predicted effect. But if you cannot see that something, there is no way to know what it is, whether or not your experiment was reasonably designed to affect it, or whether the results actually mean what you thought they would mean. It was never within the realm of scientific possibilities to solve the fundamental mysteries. The standard model of the atom is 100 years old, and try as they may, they still cannot prove or disprove its validity. The only way to understand the fundamentals is to let someone who knows fundamental truth explain it to you. When the explanation is sufficiently convincing, then you can begin to design experiments based on fundamental truth to accomplish things that are not possible without it. When those things begin to work, you will have sufficient evidence that the explanations were actually true. In other words, if you want fundamental truth, you must move out in faith. When that faith is rewarded with accomplishments, you have the evidence of the truth. Now, I realize that this is different from the typical scientific method, but then so is applying the scientific method without direct observation capabilities. To understand any of the fundamentals, you must know what forms energy can take at the fundamental level, and there are only three. The energy ocean. Space is filled with energy. We exist in this energy ocean. It is established and maintained by the normal processes of light, which is entirely a particle phenomenon. Photon energy particles are the basic substance from which all things are made and sustained. Secondly, energy tornadoes. All atoms are tiny tornadoes of energy spun from the photons that make up the energy ocean. Different size and shaped energy tornadoes represent the different elements. All other particles are fragments broken off from atoms and other particles. No particle has any other form than that of a tiny energy tornado. And thirdly, velocity. Our velocity through the energy ocean keeps our atomic tornadoes spinning like a pinwheel held outside the window of a moving automobile. Velocity is the c² in Einstein's famous equation E equals mc squared. This velocity is a foundational variable. Whatever the current velocity, it establishes the current mass of all our atoms, and it is the basis for all the laws of science. We exist in a relative universe, and this velocity establishes our current relative values. To understand any fundamental or near fundamental phenomena, it must be explained down to any or all of these three fundamental forms of energy.